Well, that was a race? do we want to call that a race or not? I suppose officially, yes, but it was a little bit very farcical. I am back making videos after a short little break. Unfortunately, no data analysis for this race. Only 2 laps in the pouring rain behind the safety car, so there isn't anything whatsoever to analyse, which is a little bit of a shame. But we will have this sort of general chat post-race on the Sunday evening once I've had a chance to watch the race. May even be pushed into Monday, depending on how long it takes me to produce it. Got myself a little pad of paper with some notes and stuff. Race, lack thereof. That's all I've really said on that. There's a little bit of information on qualifying. Also, got myself a cup of tea as it's cold. It's the evening. It's 7:30. I didn't like the fact I stared at the camera doing that. Right. Okay, I might edit that bit out. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly go over qualifying overall. And we start with Lando Norris. He was on for pole position. He was 100% on for pole position, leading Q1, I believe, then dominating pretty much Q2, and then on for a quick lap in Q3. Well, just beginning his quick lap in Q3 in the pouring rain, where Sebastian Vettel said it was going to be red flagged, or it should be red flagged, and then he crashed quite heavily. I don't know if it was a really as significant as I don't really know if it was that big of an impact. It was rearward. It was fairly I'm trying to phrase this as nicely as I possibly can without seeming like an idiot, but it wasn't as serious as a crash as it looked. It definitely looked really vicious with the amount of like spinny winnies that he did, but the rearwards impact that he had, it wasn't too severe. Yes, it does add to the number of Eau Rouge Raidillon incidents that we have had, so perhaps the FIA do need to look at sort of reprofiling I would say the barriers more than the corner itself, as definitely having that left side barrier where if you hit it you get bounced into the circuit, that's not good. That's mainly where the problem lies. But definitely a shame for Lando Norris, having looked so strong in the wet weather. That McLaren looking so good on a sort of 50-50 compromise dry setup, hoping for some form of dry weather racing. And we'll get to the Williams in just a little moment's time. But definitely Lando Norris looking incredibly strong, taking his gearbox penalty and starting outside of the top 10, unfortunately. But then we move on in to George Russell, and what a sensational performance to out-qualify both Mercedes, to out-qualify Lewis Hamilton, of all people, in his Mercedes in the wet. Oh, yeah, wow. Now, Lewis Hamilton is one to excel in the wet weather racing. Look at the last wet qualifying session we had last year, Styria. He's 1.2 seconds faster than anybody else. And come to Spa, he's 100th, just over 100th behind a Williams. And then a Williams is on the front row with the Red Bull. It's, bonkers. So good and so bonkers. However, the main reason for this Williams speed, as Latifi was so very close to getting into Q3, and actually if George Russell hadn't put in a very strong Q2 lap, Latifi may have out-qualified George Russell here, but Williams went full wet. They went full wet setup, ultra high downforce for the wet conditions, whereas everybody else was running a sort of mixed combination of dry and wet. Obviously more leaning towards the wet with what they could do with Parc Fermé, etc. So that's why Williams was so strong, and they can do that because they are nearer the back, so they have less to lose by gambling with going on the more wet setup. But still, that doesn't detract from the exceptional car control that he had during qualifying, and that's where his points were scored on Sunday, which we'll move on into in a little moment's time. The Red Bull and Mercedes second driver seats. What's going on there? I don't know. Even in the dry, in the practice sessions FP1 and FP2, Perez was nowhere. I think in FP2 he was 9/10 off of Verstappen. Bottas was actually doing quite well against Hamilton, but come the rain, he hates the rain. He doesn't like driving in the rain, and it's evident. He can't get close to Hamilton. I think he was over 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds down off of Hamilton. I think it was 2.7 from Verstappen, and then Hamilton was 0.3 back, so 2.4. And then Perez was, again, over 2 seconds back from Verstappen. Those gaps are unacceptable. At the top teams, to have those gaps in these types of conditions are just unacceptable. But also congratulations to Sergio Perez for maintaining that second Red Bull seat into 2022. Valtteri Bottas, we don't know, but my personal speculation is that it is all done and dusted. They're just waiting for the Williams announcement, essentially. They're waiting to find the replacement for George Russell, and then when they do, it'll all get announced at the same time, as they don't want to announce Russell at Mercedes and then be left with Williams going, yeah, do what you like, and wait, essentially, to find it. They would rather do it all at the same time, which makes sense. But that's my personal opinion, that it is all done and dusted, that Bottas is gone, and in that case, Bottas is not going to Williams, going back to Williams. He'll probably end up at Alfa Romeo, perhaps, if Raikkonen announces his retirement. Who knows? Then finally, for the qualifying segment, Sainz and Alonso. Two drivers who are very good in the wet. And Sainz has proved that over the past couple of years, like Esteban Ocon has proved that in the last couple of years. And Fernando Alonso, just historically, very good in the wet. And they were nowhere. They didn't even get through to Q3. They struggled. They both struggled. Very interesting, and cost them a lot on the Sunday. Why can't I drink tea on a camera? So we will now move on into the race. I was at work. It's a Sunday. I work pretty much Saturdays and Sundays. So I was quite happy to hear that the race was delayed at 2 o'clock. So I thought, oh, perfect. I might actually be able to catch some when I get home. I get home at 5 o'clock and I find out that the race has only done 2 laps behind the safety car, basically to enable the race to be an official race and for them to score half points, because they wouldn't have got the 75%, the required 75%, and then with 30 minutes left on their 3-hour slot to run the race, they say it's suspended and they're not going to resume it. So that is the main topic of conversation right now, is what was the point and why did they restart the race for just those 2 laps behind the safety car to earn half points? So there are a couple of things that have been brought up with this. What about a postponement to tomorrow, to have the race on Monday? What about just not awarding half points, because that brings up the whole, is it really a victory? Is it really worth half points? Did Russell really deserve the podium for P2? Why did they do the whole podium ceremony? Surely it's a bit hollow. It sort of leaves a bit of a sour taste in the mouth of everybody watching. Just ignoring the fact that you've had to wait 3 hours for the people that have paid for Sky, paid for Now TV, the people that have been at the bloody track. It feels a bit odd. Now, I do believe off the top of my head that all of the team principals are currently in a meeting with the race control just to sort of understand the decision making behind it and to understand what went on. So that'll be good to see if we can get any clarification on that as their reasoning behind why they decided to do 2 laps behind the safety car. But it was 100% to make the race official, as they then said, it's the shortest race in F1 history. It's only done 2 laps. And yeah, it just feels really a little bit bitter. But nonetheless, that is still a victory for Max Verstappen, victory number 7. That is the first podium for Williams for a very, very long time, since 17? I was about to say 2016 with Valtteri Bottas, Felipe Massa, but 2017 with Lance Stroll in Baku. So a very, very long time coming for Williams, especially with the seasons that they've had, and also a first podium for George Russell, hopefully the first of many if he does proceed on to Mercedes in 2022. And looking at my list, that's about it, other than Perez crashing on the formation lap and then his team actually sort of declaring that he's withdrawn over the radio to the race director, and then going, no, we'll pop him back in. The race hasn't resumed yet, so we can still pop him back in, even though we said, no, there's too much damage, we are going to withdraw him, but we can still pop him back in. It's been enough time, we've had enough time to repair it. So that was another little bit of a grey area as to if the race did resume, how far could he have got, but it doesn't really matter. He's all the way at the back, didn't score any points. Mazepin got the fastest lap. Lech. Meh. Again, just taking away a half a point from someone inside the top 10. I personally think this race shouldn't have gone ahead, as in they shouldn't have run the 2 laps behind the safety car, and they shouldn't have awarded the half points. They definitely shouldn't have done the podium ceremony, because the drivers have done nothing for it. Because yes, it was all done yesterday. They did the hard work yesterday for today's results, if that makes any sense, but then they celebrated yesterday. So George Russell celebrated like he officially got a P2 yesterday. Max Verstappen celebrated getting a pole position yesterday, and they did no work for those same positions today, yet they then celebrated again. The whole thing was a little bit farcical. Very, 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 very farcical. But I think that draws an end to this little race recap for the race that never was. If you have enjoyed this style of video, then please let me know in the comments down below, as it's probably going to be something that I run, as it's really not editing and researchy heavy. It's just sit down in front of the camera and turn all the lights on and record. But if there are any topics of conversation that you have, please let me know down in the comments below, and I'll make sure to do my best to answer all of those. Equally, I will be running the Predictions Championship. I do apologise once again for missing that. I did make a small little community post. I was horrendously ill after my second COVID jab. I'm a little bit better still. Headache is not ideal at the minute, but nowhere near as crippling as it was on Thursday. But yes, I'll probably be running that more as a community post rather than an actual video itself, but look out for that on Thursday and Friday. That is all I've got for you today, guys. I hope you have enjoyed, and I will catch you in the next episode with whatever and whenever I decide to make it. I'll see you guys then.